I want you to picture this for a second. You're sitting in a place you worked your whole life to reach. Finally breathing a little easier. Finally thinking, yeah, maybe I belong here after all. And then someone looks at you. Really looks at you and decides you don't. Not because of anything you did, not because you broke a rule, but because of how you look, how you dress, how quiet you are. That's where my story starts, and trust me, it doesn't end the way they thought it would. I was 18, barely flying alone for the first time after getting a scholarship interview on the other side of the country. I didn't grow up with money, didn't grow up flying anywhere, so when my ticket said first class, I checked it 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the system made a mistake, but it was real. My seat. Front of the plane. Window. I sat down, pulled my hoodie tighter, put my headphones on, and just stared outside, trying not to look like someone who didn't belong. The cabin felt different up there. Quieter, softer, like everyone knew the rules without saying them out loud. And apparently one of those unspoken rules was that someone like me wasn't supposed to be there. I felt her before I heard her. That sharp pause in conversation, the way footsteps stop right beside you. I took my headphones off, and there she was, the lead attendant. Perfect hair, perfect smile that never quite reached her eyes. She asked for my boarding pass, not politely, not curious, but suspicious, like she already knew the answer she wanted. I told her I'd scanned it at the gate. She said there was an issue with my seat. I showed her the ticket on my phone. She didn't even glance down. She just looked at me and said, "Sweetie, first-class tickets are expensive. Your seat is in the back." That word sweetie, it hit harder than anything else. I told her calmly this was my assigned seat. She laughed. Not loud, just enough to humiliate. People nearby started watching. One guy sighed like I was personally ruining his day. I could feel my chest tighten, that familiar feeling of being small, of wanting to disappear. But something in me snapped too. I stayed seated. I said, "I'm not moving." Her smile vanished. She threatened to call security. I nodded and said, "Okay." Yeah, that happened. When security showed up, it escalated fast. Too fast. The officer didn't ask questions. He didn't ask to see my ticket. He told me to stand up. I tried explaining. He talked over me. I reached for my phone again, and he knocked it out of my hand like it was trash. That sound, my phone hitting the floor, echoed in my head. He grabbed my arm, hard, and in that moment, all the confidence drained out of me. I wasn't a passenger anymore. I was a problem, a threat, a story they'd already decided how to end. I remember thinking, this is how it happens. This is how people get dragged off planes while everyone films and nobody helps. I said I was calling my dad. The officer laughed and said, "You're not calling anyone." He pulled out cuffs. My hands were shaking my throat tight, but I didn't scream. I just looked around and realized nobody was on my side. Or so I thought. Then everything stopped. Literally. The plane went quiet. The captain came out of the cockpit, face pale, eyes wide. He told the officer to let go of me. Not asked. Told. He told the attendant to pick up my phone and give it back. His voice was shaking. He said they'd just received a call from corporate, a call from the company that owned the aircraft, and apparently they were not happy that their client's daughter was being treated like a criminal. You could feel the air change. The officer let go of my arm like he'd touched fire. The attendant started apologizing, tripping over her words. The lights flickered. The engines didn't start. Passengers started murmuring. Then the captain said something I'll never forget. He said the flight was grounded. Indefinitely. Outside the window, black SUVs pulled up. My dad stepped out. Calm, focused. The kind of calm that makes grown men nervous. He boarded the plane, ignored everyone, walked straight to me, knelt down, and asked if I was okay. I nodded, and that's when the tears came. He stood up slowly and looked around. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten. He just asked questions. Simple ones. Like why nobody bothered to look at a valid ticket. Like why an officer thought it was okay to put hands on a teenager. Turns out the airline had violated a contract clause. A big one. Safety and dignity. My dad terminated the lease on the aircraft. Then the fleet. Then the software licenses. Planes across the country stopped flying. Videos went viral. Millions of views overnight. The story flipped. Hard. The attendant lost her job. Then her reputation. The officer lost his badge. Then his freedom. Courtrooms, evidence footage, all of it laid bare. Guilty. The airline tried damage control. Press conferences, apologies. Too late. My dad bought the company for pennies, rebuilt it from the ground, up new leadership, new rules, new culture. One where respect wasn't optional. Months later, I flew again. Same route, different airline, same seat. Nobody questioned me. Nobody stared. I sat down, buckled in, and for the first time I felt like I didn't have to prove I belonged. The engines roared. The plane lifted, and I smiled. Because this story isn't about money, it's about power. Who people think has it, who they assume doesn't, and what happens when those assumptions blow up in their face. So let me ask you, what would you have done? Would you have moved? Would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have held your ground even when the whole room wanted you gone? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share a story you've seen or lived, and let's talk about where the line between protocol and prejudice really is.